Her name was Serena Voss Dott, and if you asked anyone in the city of Chicago what they thought of Serena Voss, they would pause for a moment, straighten their back, and choose their words very carefully. Because Serena Voss was not the kind of woman you talked about carelessly. She was the kind of woman you respected from a distance. The kind of woman who walked into a room and changed the temperature of it without saying a single word. She was 36 years old. She was the CEO of Voss Industries, one of the most powerful real estate and development companies in the Midwest. She had built that company from the ground up, starting with nothing but a business degree, a small inheritance from her grandmother, and a hunger that most people never understood and never would. She was tall, 5'10" in her bare feet, and she almost always wore heels, which made her something close to 6 feet when she walked into a boardroom. Her hair was dark brown, cut in a sharp, clean style that framed her face like a painting. Her eyes were gray. Not the soft, cloudy gray of an overcast sky, but the hard, clear gray of polished steel. Eyes that saw everything. Eyes that gave away nothing. She dressed in black. Almost always black. Black suits, black coats, black dresses for charity events. Occasionally she would wear white, and on those days her assistant, a nervous young man named Philip, would quietly warn the rest of the staff that something was happening. Something big. Because Serena in white meant Serena was in a mood to make changes. And Serena's changes were never small. She had no partner. She had no girlfriend, no wife, no significant other. She had not been in a relationship in 4 years. Not since a woman named Dana had packed her things one quiet Sunday morning and left a note on the kitchen counter that said simply, "You love this company more than you will ever love a person. I hope it loves you back." Serena had read that note 3 times. Then she had folded it, placed it in the top drawer of her desk at the office, and gone back to work. She told herself she was fine. She was, by every measurable standard, not fine. But Serena Voss had spent her entire adult life being very good at pretending otherwise. Her days were structured to the minute. She woke at 5 in the morning. She worked out for 45 minutes in the private gym on the top floor of her penthouse apartment. She showered, she dressed. She drank black coffee and ate something her nutritionist had prepared and left in her refrigerator the day before. She was in the office by 7. She left the office sometime between 8 and 10 at night, depending on what fires needed to be put out that day. She had 3,000 square feet of apartment all to herself, floor-to-ceiling windows looking out over Lake Michigan. A kitchen she barely used. A bedroom with a bed so large and so perfectly made every morning by her housekeeper that it looked like no one had ever slept in it at all on weekends. Sometimes when the work slowed just enough for her mind to notice the quiet, she would stand at those windows with her coffee and look out at the lake, and she would feel something she had no name for. Not loneliness exactly. Not sadness exactly. Something more like distance. Like she was watching her own life from very far away through glass. Unable to quite reach it, she did not talk about this feeling with anyone. She was Serena Voss Dott. She didn't talk about feelings at all. The night everything changed began, the way most of Serena's nights began. With work, her company had recently acquired a large entertainment district property on the south side of Chicago. Several buildings, several businesses, a full city block of mixed-use commercial space. The plan was to redevelop the whole area. New apartments above, boutique retail below, a rooftop restaurant, the whole vision. It was the kind of project that would take 3 years and cost $40 million and, when it was done, would reshape that entire neighborhood. But before the redevelopment could begin, Serena needed to understand what she was working with. She needed to see the businesses currently operating in that block. Most of them had lease agreements that needed to be honored for at least another 14 months. She needed to know which ones were worth keeping, which ones would be bought out, and which ones would simply fold when their leases expired. Her property manager, a sharp woman named Gloria, had given her a full report. But Serena didn't trust reports alone. She trusted her own eyes. So on a Thursday night in October, when the Chicago wind was cutting cold off the lake and the city lights were smearing gold against a low black sky, Serena Voss put on dark jeans, a black cashmere turtleneck, and a long charcoal coat. And she went to see her new property for herself. She walked the block. She looked at the storefronts. A barber shop, closed for the night. A Caribbean restaurant, still open and smelling incredible. a print shop, a nail salon, a small music venue. And at the far end of the block, taking up the corner unit with its name spelled out in soft rose gold neon above the door, Velvet Dot, it was a nightclub. More precisely, it was a gentleman's club. Though the word gentleman was doing a lot of work in that context, Serena stood outside for a moment, looking up at the sign. She could hear the low pulse of music from inside. She could see the faint flicker of stage lighting through the frosted lower panels of the windows. There was a short line outside, maybe 8 or 10 people, and a large man in a black jacket standing at the door with his arms crossed. She looked at her phone. Pulled up Gloria's report. Velvet had 18 months left on its lease. Revenue was strong, apparently. The owner had been at this location for 6 years. No complaints on file, no violations, no trouble with neighbors beyond occasional noise ordinance warnings. She should have just noted it down and moved on. She had 4 other businesses still to look at on this block, but something made her stop. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was the cold and the fact that she hadn't eaten since noon. Maybe it was something else entirely. Something she wouldn't understand until much later. She put her phone in her pocket, walked to the door, and paid the cover charge. Her name was Maya Reyes. And if you asked anyone at Velvet what they thought of Maya Reyes, they wouldn't pause at all. They would just smile. The bartenders, the other dancers, the bouncers, the cocktail waitresses, the manager, Big Dave, who had been running this place for 15 years and had seen everything there was to see, they would all just smile. Because Maya was the kind of person who made people smile without even trying. She was 28 years old. She'd been dancing at Velvet for 3 years. And before that, she'd been a dance major at a state university 200 miles south of Chicago. Before the money ran out and her mother got sick, and she had to come home and figure out another way, she was not what most people expected when they pictured this kind of dancer. She was 5'4" with a small, strong body built from years of actual dance training, ballet, contemporary, jazz, hip-hop. She moved with precision and with feeling, 2 things that almost never went together. And the combination was something that stopped people. Mid-conversation when she walked onto that stage. Her hair was natural. Dark, full of curls. She wore loose when she wasn't on stage and pulled up into something wild and beautiful when she was. Her skin was warm brown, her eyes were nearly black. And when she laughed, which was often, because Maya laughed easily and genuinely and without apology, it was the kind of laugh that filled up a whole room. She had a small apartment 12 blocks from Velvet. She shared it with a cat named Biscuit and a collection of plants that lined every windowsill and hung from every available hook in the ceiling. The apartment was small and old, and the heater made a sound like a dying engine on cold nights. But Maya had filled it with color and life, and it felt more like a home than most places 3 times its size. She was saving money. That was the plan. She'd been saving money for 2 years with the specific goal of eventually opening her own dance studio. Not here. Maybe somewhere with a real space and real mirrors and a real floor and kids who needed exactly what Maya had needed at that age and hadn't always had access to. She had a notebook full of plans, budgets, class schedules, paint color ideas for the walls. She didn't talk about it much at work. Not because she was ashamed of the dream, but because she had learned that when you tell people your dreams in the wrong environment, they have a way of making those dreams sound smaller than they are. She was not ashamed of her work. She had made peace with that a long time ago, had sat with it and turned it over and examined it from every angle and decided that she was providing entertainment. She was in control of her own body and her own choices. She was making good money. And she was doing what she needed to do to get to where she wanted to go. Anyone who had a problem with that could keep it to themselves. She had dated women almost exclusively since she was 19. She had been in 2 real relationships, one in college, one a year after she started at Velvet, and both had ended with some variation of the same problem, which was that the women she dated eventually wanted more of her time and energy than she had to give. She was not a cold person. She was, in fact, one of the warmest people you could ever meet. But she was focused. She had a direction she was moving in, and she moved in it with everything she had. And that didn't always leave a lot of room for someone else. She told herself she was okay with that. Most days. She believed it. On that same Thursday night in October, Maya was getting ready for her second set of the evening. She was in the dressing room backstage. sitting at her mirror touching up her makeup with the calm, practiced focus of someone who had done this hundreds of times. Around her, the other girls were talking, laughing. Someone was playing music from a small Bluetooth speaker in the corner. Someone else was complaining about a customer who had been rude earlier. Maya listened with half an ear and kept her hands steady. She liked this part, actually. The quiet before. The getting ready. It was meditative in a way she'd never fully been able to explain to people who hadn't experienced it. You sat at your mirror and you built a version of yourself. You made choices about who you were going to be for the next hour. There was a power in that. "Full house tonight," said her friend Jess, dropping into the chair beside her and reaching for the communal hairspray. Jess had been here longer than Maya, had red hair and sharp eyes and a business mind that would have made her terrifying in a corporate setting. "Big Dave says there are some suits in the back booth." "There are always suits in the back booth," Maya said. "These ones look different. One of them is a woman." Maya looked at Jess in the mirror. "A woman?" "A very serious woman." "Like, very serious?" "Black turtleneck." Didn't smile once when Kat did her welcome routine. Jess shook the hairspray. "Hot, though." In a scary way. Maya turned back to her own reflection. "Interesting." She finished her makeup. She rolled her shoulders back. She took a breath. She went to work. Serena had taken a seat near the back of the room. She had been offered a booth by a cheerful, young woman in a short dress, and she had taken it because the booth gave her a clear view of the entire space and she could observe without being particularly observed herself. She had ordered water. The waitress had blinked at her. She had ordered a glass of red wine. The waitress had smiled and gone away. The club was nicer than she had expected. That was her first thought, and she recognized it immediately as a bias she should examine. She'd expected something cheap and sad and a little desperate, and instead the place was well designed. Low lighting that was warm rather than sleazy. Good sound system, clean. The decor was deep red and black and gold, a little theatrical but deliberately so, and it worked. The clientele was mixed groups of men, yes, but also couples. And a bachelorette party in the far corner. And two women sitting together at the bar who seemed to be on a date. The stage was at the center of the room. Raised about 3 feet off the floor, long, with a pole at one end and a clear performance space along the rest of its length. The lighting above this stage was the only truly bright lighting in the room, and it was designed to make whoever was up there look extraordinary. Serena watched the first performer with professional detachment. She noted the music choices, the crowd response, the way the stage was used. She was taking mental notes on the business. That was all she was doing. She was working, then the music changed. It was not a dramatic change. It was not the kind of moment that announced itself loudly. The previous song faded out, there was a brief pause, and then something new began. Something slower. Something that moved differently through the room, and Maya walked out. She was wearing a deep burgundy dress, short and fitted, with her hair down around her shoulders. She walked to the center of the stage with the easy, unhurried confidence of someone who owned every inch of the floor beneath her feet. She didn't rush. She didn't perform the confidence, she simply had it. And then she began to move. It was not what Serena had expected. Nothing about the next 4 minutes was what Serena had expected. Maya danced the way people play music, when they have stopped thinking about technique and started just feeling the song. There was something in her movement that was far beyond what this room, this stage, this situation seemed to call for. It was precise, and it was emotional, and it was completely, utterly present. She was not somewhere else in her head. She was right there in her body, in the music. And the combination of those things created something that made Serena forget for a moment what she was doing there. She forgot she was assessing a property. She forgot she was working. She just watched. Near the end of the set, Maya moved to the edge of the stage near Serena's booth. She was not looking at Serena specifically. Her eyes moved across the room with the easy openness of a performer comfortable with her audience. But then, for just a moment, her gaze landed and held 2 seconds. Maybe 3. Maya's eyes met Serena's. And something passed between them that Serena could not name and immediately distressed it. Then Maya smiled a small, real smile. Not the performance smile she had been wearing, and looked away. Serena looked down at her wine glass. Her heart was beating faster than it had Any reason to be. She sat in that booth for another 20 minutes, telling herself she was conducting research. Then she paid her bill, tipped generously, and left. She walked back to her car in the cold October air, her hands in her coat pockets, her breath making small clouds in front of her. She did not go back to the office that night. She went home, stood at her window, and looked at the lake for a long time. She told herself she would not go back. She went back the following Thursday. This time she sat at the bar. She ordered actual food. The club had a small kitchen menu, better than it had any right to be. And she ate a plate of something with mushrooms and pasta and drank one glass of wine slowly over the course of an hour. She did not see Maya until midway through the evening. And when she did, it was not on the stage. Maya was moving through the room during the break between sets, stopping at tables, chatting with guests, the practiced social ease of someone very good at their job. She wore black this time, something simple and well-fitted, and her hair was up in a loose twist. She reached the bar a few minutes later, sliding onto the stool 2 seats down from Serena to speak with the bartender about something. Serena did not look directly at her. She looked at her wine glass and thought about quarterly projections. "You were here last week," Maya said. Serena looked up. Maya was looking at her with a direct, uncomplicated curiosity. Not flirtatious. "Just honest." "I was," Serena said. "Back booth," Maya said. "You were watching the room, not the stage." "Most people watch the stage." Serena said nothing. "Business visit?" Maya asked. She wasn't pushing. She was just asking the way people ask things when they're genuinely curious and not afraid to be. Serena considered lying. It would have been easy. But there was something about the directness of this woman's gaze that made a lie feel unnecessarily complicated. "I recently acquired this property block," she said. "I was doing a walkthrough." Maya raised her eyebrows slightly. "The whole block?" "Yes." A pause. Then Maya said calmly, "Are you going to tear this place down?" "Not immediately. There's a lease, but eventually." Serena looked at her. "Probably yes. The redevelopment plan calls for different use of the ground floor corner unit." She expected the conversation to end there. She expected Maya to pull back, get cold, make the polite exit. Instead, Maya tilted her head slightly and said, "At least you're honest about it." "I don't have much use for dishonesty." "Most people in your position would have said something like, 'We're still exploring all our options,'" Maya said. There was no bitterness in her voice, just observation. "Most people in my position are better at managing optics than I am," Serena said. Maya looked at her for a moment. Then she laughed, that real, full laugh that Serena had watched from across the room the previous week and was now experiencing at close range. And it was exactly as warm as she had imagined it would be. "I'm Maya," she said, and extended her hand. "Serena," Serena said, and shook it. Maya's hand was small and warm and strong, and she held the handshake a beat longer than strictly necessary, just long enough to be noticed. "Well, Serena," she said, sliding off the bar stool, "I hope you come back again before you tear the place down. You look like you could use a night off." She walked away before Serena could respond. Serena sat at the bar for a long time after that, turning her wine glass in her hands, thinking about the specific quality of warmth that lingered where Maya's hand had been. The third visit was on a Saturday. Serena had told herself she was coming for professional reasons. She brought a small notebook as evidence for herself. She made 3 actual professional observations and wrote them down. Then she put the notebook away and sat at the bar and waited. Maya found her within 10 minutes this time. "You came back again," Maya said, sitting down beside her with the ease of someone who had decided they were going to do exactly this. "I told you I might," Serena said. "You didn't actually." Serena thought back. "Didn't I?" "No, you just said probably yes about tearing this place down and then stared at your wine until I went away." Maya's eyes were bright with amusement. Not the most encouraging farewell, and yet here you are. "Here I am." Maya ordered a club soda from the bartender without looking at the drink menu, then turned back to Serena. "Do you always drink red wine?" "When I drank, yes." "Do you always sit at the bar instead of a table?" "At the bar you can watch the whole room." Maya nodded. "Control." Serena looked at her. "Excuse me?" "You like to be able to see everything." know everything that's happening in a space. Maya wasn't being unkind. She was being observational. It's a control thing. Or it's an efficiency thing, Serena said. Those are often the same thing. Serena picked up her wine glass and held it without drinking from it. You're very direct. Is that a problem? No, a pause. I'm direct too, usually. I'm just not used to other people being direct with me. What are you used to? People telling me what they think I want to hear. Maya considered this. That sounds exhausting. It is, actually. They sat in the comfortable, slightly charged quiet of that for a moment. Around them the club moved through its rhythm's music. Laughter, the clink of glasses, the low bass of the system pulsing through the floor. Tell me about the development plan, Maya said. The real one. Not the press release version. Why? Because if this place is going away in 18 months, I'd like to know what's coming. And because, she paused, tilting her head, I think you'd rather talk about real things than make small talk. Serena looked at her for a moment. Then she started talking. She talked about the block. About the vision, the residential towers above, the curated retail below, the green space and the community investment, and the way she genuinely believed the development would improve the neighborhood in the long run, not just extract value from it. She talked about the businesses she had walked through and the ones she was trying to find ways to keep or relocate. She talked about the challenges of urban development that didn't just bulldoze communities. She talked for almost 20 minutes. Maya listened. Actually listened in the way that meant she was thinking about what was being said, not just waiting for her turn. She asked questions. Real questions, not polite ones. She pushed back on 2 points gently but clearly, and both times she was right to push back. And Serena acknowledged it. It was the most genuinely engaged conversation Serena had had with anyone outside of a professional context in longer than she could easily remember. When she finally stopped, she felt oddly light, like she had put down something heavy without noticing she had been carrying it. You love it, Maya said. The work. You actually love it. I do, Serena said. Most people think CEOs are just in it for the money. Some are. I am in it for the money. And for the building. The actual building of things. Serena looked at her wine glass. There's something about taking a space that isn't working and making it into something that is. I find that she searched for the word. Satisfying, Maya offered. Yes, Maya nodded slowly. I know that feeling, she said quietly. Serena looked at her. She thought about the dancing. About the precision and the feeling she had watched from across the room. You do, Serena said. It wasn't a question. Maya smiled, a slightly smaller smile than the one she usually wore. More private. Yeah. They looked at each other in the warm, low light of the bar, and something shifted. Not dramatically, quietly. The wavers shift course not in one big moment, but in 1,000 small ones. And then you look up one day and the water is going somewhere else entirely. It was the 4th visit, a Wednesday. Serena had been in the neighborhood for an actual site meeting and had told herself she was stopping in only because it was convenient when things moved. Outside the walls of velvet for the first time, Maya's last set ended at midnight. Serena had been about to leave, was literally putting on her coat, when Maya came out from backstage still in her street clothes, hair back up in its natural cloud of curls, a canvas bag over her shoulder, and stopped when she saw Serena. You're leaving, she said. Late, Serena said. Walk with me. Maya said it simply, like it was the most natural thing. I'm going to the diner on Reese. I eat after work. Serena stood there with her coat half on and thought about her empty apartment and her perfectly made bed and the lake outside the windows that she would look at instead of sleeping. All right, she said. Diner was 2 blocks away, and it was warm and it smelled like coffee and frying butter. And it was almost nothing like any environment Serena Voss ever occupied. She sat in a red vinyl booth and ordered coffee black, and Maya ordered pancakes and eggs and orange juice and ate with the uncomplicated appetite of someone who had just done physical work for 4 hours. They talked for 2 hours about everything and nothing. About Chicago winters and where they had both grown up. Serena in a small city in Ohio, Maya in Chicago itself, South Side, 2 miles from where they were sitting right now. About books they both read, Serena mostly nonfiction, Maya mostly fiction, and they disagreed warmly about which was more useful. About food Maya cooked, Serena didn't, and Maya was appalled by this in a completely affectionate way. About music, Serena's taste was unexpectedly eclectic, and Maya approved of this. What did you want to be when you were a kid? Maya asked at some point over her second cup of coffee. Serena thought about it. An architect. Really, I was obsessed with buildings. Not the designing of them, the making of them. I used to draw buildings for fun. Floor plans, elevations. I didn't have the patience for architecture school, so I went into business. But it's the same impulse. Maya smiled. You build things, I build things. A pause. What about you? A dancer, Maya said, without hesitation. I always wanted to be a dancer. I just didn't always know what kind. And now? Now I am a dancer. Just not the kind I imagined when I was 9. She said this without sadness, but without pretense either. But I'm also working on the next thing. The studio. Maya looked at her sharply. How did you mentioned saving money when we talked last week. And the way you talked about what dancing means to you, the teaching impulse, you pay attention, Maya said. I told you. I like to see everything. Maya held her coffee cup in both hands and looked at Serena over the rim of it with an expression that was harder to read than her usual openness. Thoughtful, evaluating. What? Serena asked. Nothing, Maya said. I'm just trying to figure out who you actually are. As opposed to? As opposed to who you present as. Serena sat with that for a moment. And what's the difference? The person you present as is very controlled, Maya said carefully. Very certain. Very closed. But the person who comes to a nightclub alone on work nights and eats in a diner at 2 in the morning and talks about architecture like they're talking about something they miss, she paused. That person seems a little lonely. The word landed quietly between them. Serena didn't deflect. She didn't retreat behind the armor of professional distance. She just looked at Maya across the table and said quietly, yeah. One word. But Maya heard everything in it. She reached across the table and put her hand over Serena's for just a moment. Not romantic. Just present. Just there. Me too, she said. They walked out of the diner at 2:30 in the morning. The Chicago wind was cold and sharp, and they stood on the sidewalk in it for a moment, not quite ready to say goodbye. I'll call you a car, Serena said. I live 12 blocks from here, Maya said. I walk at 2:30? I've been walking this neighborhood my whole life. Maya looked at her. But you can walk with me if you want. So Serena walked with her dot through 12 blocks of nighttime Chicago. Under the orange glow of the streetlights, with the distant sound of the city all around them and their breath making small clouds in the cold air. They walked close enough that their arms occasionally touched. They didn't talk much. They didn't need to dodge the door of Maya's building. They stopped. Maya turned to look at her. Serena looked back. Good night, Serena, Maya said. Good night, Maya. A pause. Neither of them moved. Same time next week? Maya said, and there was a question in it that was about more than next week. Yes, Serena said. Maya smiled that full. Real room-filling smile and went inside. Serena stood on the sidewalk for a moment in the cold. Hands in her coat pockets, and felt something she hadn't felt in a very long time. She felt like coming back. Serena called Maya the next day. She had Maya's number because she had asked for it at the diner. And she was used to asking for what she needed in a professional context. But she stood in her office on the 42nd floor with her phone in her hand for 10 minutes before she pressed call. Maya picked up on the second ring. And her voice was warm and unhurried, and it turned out she was at home, planting something in one of her window boxes. And the image of that Maya in her apartment surrounded by plants, hands in soil. Talking on the phone did something to the hard geometry of Serena's morning that she wasn't prepared for. They talked for 40 minutes. Serena had meetings starting at 10. She was 8 minutes late to the first one, which had never happened before. And Philip had given her a look that she had refused to acknowledge. They started talking every day. Sometimes in the morning, when Maya was awake and Serena was in the car on the way to the office. Sometimes at night when Serena was still at her desk at 9 and Maya was getting ready for her shift. Sometimes in the middle of the afternoon when Maya called just to describe something she had seen on her walk, a dog in a sweater, a street musician playing batch on the cello, the specific shade of the lake on a clear November afternoon, and Serena would put down whatever she was doing and listen. And the day would feel different afterward. She told herself this was a friendship. Philip, who observed everything, clearly had thoughts about this. He kept them to himself with great effort and visible strain. Maya thought about Serena more than she intended to, not constantly, but persistently. The way a piece of music gets under your skin, you're not thinking about it, and then you are. And then you're humming it without having decided to. She talked about her with Jess one night at the end of a shift, sitting in the dressing room with their shoes off and their feet aching. The CEO? Jess said, with the exact tone Jess always used when she was trying very hard not to make a big deal out of something that was clearly a very big deal. The one who owns this building? Her company owns this building, Maya said. It's not personal. Maya, she comes here twice a week. You had dinner with her until 3 a.m. You talk to her every day. We're friends. Jess looked at her for a long, patient moment. What? Maya said. Nothing, Jess said, in the tone of someone who had decided to let a person arrive at their own conclusions in their own time. Maya looked at the ceiling. It's complicated. Love usually is. I didn't say love. You didn't have to. Maya threw a makeup sponge at her. Jess ducked it expertly. The truth was, and Maya was honest with herself, it was one of the things she prided herself on. The truth was that what she felt when she thought about Serena was not simple. It was not the quick, bright spark of attraction she was used to. It was something that had built slowly over weeks. In the space of late-night conversations and long walks and the specific pleasure of watching someone brilliant become slowly less guarded. Serena was the most controlled person she had ever met. And also underneath that, one of the most genuinely passionate. That combination, the iron control and the deep feeling underneath, was not something Maya had encountered before. It drew her in the way depth draws you in. You keep looking because you can sense there's more there than you can see from the surface. But there were complications. Serena was going to redevelop this building. In 14 months, Velvet would be gone. Not through any malice on Serena's part, it was just business, and Maya understood business. And she had no interest in pretending she was owed a different outcome, just because she had started to have feelings for the woman making these decisions. And there was the other thing. The work thing. Maya had never particularly cared what people thought about her job. But she was not naive about how the world perceived it. And she was not naive about the world Serena moved in boardrooms and charity, galas and business profiles and regional magazines. She didn't know if there was room in that world for someone like her. She didn't know if Serena had even fully acknowledged what was happening between them. Serena was the kind of person who could build elaborate intellectual structures to keep herself from feeling things. She was. Maya decided, going to have to be patient. She was not always good at patient, but she was going to try. In the first week of November, Serena had a charity gala. It was an annual event, a benefit for a housing foundation she had supported for years. An organization that built affordable units in neighborhoods that were being gentrified faster than people could afford to stay in them. It was important to her, genuinely, not just as optics. She gave substantially to this organization. She sat on their board. The gala was at a hotel ballroom in the Loop, and it was exactly the kind of event that Serena attended with practiced efficiency. She wore a black gown, long, simple, devastating. She worked the room. She made the speeches. She wrote the check. She shook the hands and smiled the smile that was warm enough to be convincing without being warm enough to be intimate. She was very good at this. She was also bored out of her mind by 10 o'clock, which was why she stepped out onto the hotel's outdoor terrace despite the November cold, and stood in the dark in her black gown with her arms crossed, and looked out at the city. She thought about Maya. She'd been doing this more frequently, being somewhere, going through the motions of her actual life, and thinking about Maya, finding herself noting things to tell her later. Looking at the city with something closer to Maya's eyes, the things Maya would find beautiful in it, the stories Maya would invent about the people she saw. Maya had a habit of narrating the world around her, giving people she saw in the street entire interior lives, full backstories, motivations, and Serena had started doing it too, quietly. In her own head, This is not something that happened to Serena Voss. Serena Voss. Do not start seeing the world through other people's eyes. Serena Voss was the fixed point around which other things moved, or she had been. She took out her phone. You'd hate this gala. She texted Maya. Too many people talking about giving without giving anything. 3 dots appeared. Almost immediately. Are you hiding on a terrace right now? Serena stared at her phone. How did you know that? Because that's what I would do. Are there stars? Serena looked up. There were a few, dim through the light pollution, but present, a few. Good. Look at them instead of your phone and talking to you. You can do both. Look up. Serena looked up. The cold air was clean on her face. The city stretched out below, electric and indifferent and beautiful. Somewhere south of where she was standing, Maya was in the middle of her Thursday shift, moving through a room in low lighting. And somehow even that enormous distance felt small. I wish you were here. She typed. She stared at it for a long moment. Then she sent it. The response came after a pause that was just long enough for Serena's heart to do something inconvenient. Me too. 2 weeks later. On a Sunday afternoon when neither of them had to be anywhere. Maya came to Serena's building. This was the first time. Serena had invited her 3 times over the previous 2 weeks, and Maya had accepted for the 3rd invitation with a simple, okay. Sunday, and had not said anything more about it. Serena spent more time preparing for Maya's visit than she had spent preparing for board presentations. She told herself this was simply because she wanted her home to be warm and welcoming, not clinical, not staged. She put flowers on the kitchen island. She moved a stack of financial reports off the dining table. She made coffee and found, in the back of a cupboard, an unopened bag of some kind of spiced tea that she had received as a gift and never used, and thought Maya might like. Maya arrived at 2 o'clock and stood in the doorway of the apartment for a moment when Serena opened the door, looking past her at the space. Oh, Maya said. What? It's beautiful. She looked at the windows, the view, the light, and also very. She walked inside, turning slowly, taking it in. Very clean lines. Is that a criticism? No, it's just. Maya paused at the windows, looking out at the lake. How do you live here alone and not just stand at these windows all day? I do stand at them sometimes, Serena admitted. Maya looked at her. What do you think about when you stand there? Serena picked up her coffee cup. Lately? You actually. Silence. Maya turned to fully face her. Outside, the lake was gray and silver under a November sky. Serena, she said carefully. I know, Serena said. Do you? I know what I'm feeling, Serena said. I'm not good at. She paused. I haven't been. For a long time. But I know what this is. Maya looked at her for a long moment. Her expression was open, as it almost always was, but there was something else in it now. Something careful. Can I be honest with you? Maya said. Always. Maya walked to the dining table and put down her bag and sat down. Serena sat across from her. I have feelings for you, Maya said, directly, cleanly. I've had them for a while. And I think you know that. I do, Serena said. But I need to tell you some things. Things that aren't romantic, that are just real, and I need you to hear them before we go any further. Serena said nothing. She was listening, which Maya had learned was what Serena's silences meant, not withdrawal, but attention. I'm not going to change what I do, Maya said. I'm not going to be embarrassed about it, and I'm not going to pretend it's something other than what it is. I dance at a club. That's my job right now. And it is a job, it's not who I am. But it's also not something I'm going to apologize for. I haven't asked you to, Serena said. You haven't. But the world you live in will. Maya held her gaze. Your board members, your colleagues, the people in that hotel ballroom, when they find out who you're with, there will be a reaction. And I need to know that you've actually thought about that. Not just in theory, but really thought about it. Because I will not be someone's secret. The word landed. Serena was quiet for a moment. You're right that I haven't fully thought about the optics. I'm not asking about optics, Maya said. I'm asking about you. What you think. Not what other people will think. I think, Serena said slowly, that I've spent my entire adult life being incredibly careful about what I let close to me. Because things that come close to me either get used against me or they leave. She looked at her coffee cup. And I think that you are the first person in a very long time who has gone close, not because they wanted something from me, but just because she stopped. Because what? Maya said gently. Because you just looked at me, Serena said. The way you looked at me that first night from the stage. Like I was a person, not a position. Maya's expression shifted. Something in her eyes went soft. You are a person, she said. I know that, Serena said. But it's easy to forget when everyone around you only sees the position. They sat together in the quiet of the apartment. The lake outside silver and wide, the city below going about its Sunday. I need to go slow, Serena said. Not because of doubt. But because I am genuinely terrible at this, and I will do it badly if I rush, and I don't want to do it badly. Okay, Maya said. And I need you to tell me when I'm retreating. Because I will retreat. I do it automatically, and I'm working on it, but Serena. Maya reached across the table and put her hand on Serena's, the same way she had in the diner weeks ago, quiet and present. I'm not going anywhere, Serena looked at their hands. Okay. She said, it was the most she had said about herself to anyone in 4 years, it felt. Terrifyingly, like enough, they started having Sundays, it was not a formal arrangement. It had just happened organically, the way real things happen, not decided but arrived at. Sunday was Maya's only full day off. Sunday was the one day Serena tried, with limited success, to not work. It became the day they spent together, not always doing anything in particular. Maya would come to the apartment. Or they would meet somewhere in the city, or Serena would go to Maya's neighborhood, which she increasingly found she preferred. There was something about Maya's part of the city that Serena, who had spent 10 years in the gleaming glass towers of the north side, found difficult to name. It was messier and louder and more alive somehow. Like the city was less curated there, less performed. Maya took her to her favorite places. A bookshop in a converted apartment building that was technically by appointment only, but where Maya knew the owner and simply knocked. A Dominican restaurant where they ate for $8 a person and everything was extraordinary. A park along the river where Maya liked to walk in winter because it was almost always empty. In return, Serena took Maya to places she never went to with anyone. Not the business lunches and charity events and corporate dinners that made up most of her social calendar. Real places. A small gallery she had quietly funded that showed work by local artists, but almost no one knew she had anything to do with. A rooftop on the north side where she had once designed just for herself. Never built an imaginary garden in her head. And she described it to Maya so clearly that Maya pulled out her phone and started sketching it in a notes app. They were not officially together. They had not kissed. They were in the space between, that slow, warm, slightly excruciating space where everything is possible and nothing is certain. And every conversation is a little bit electric because you are both aware of what is underneath. But Serena had not been in this space before. She had gone from strangers to relationships without ever really staying here in this middle place. She found to her surprise that she liked it. It was uncomfortable in the way that good things sometimes are. It made her pay attention. Maya had a dance class, not at Velvet. She taught a weekly class at a community center 10 minutes from her apartment. Saturday mornings, kids between 8 and 14. A mix of ballet basics and hip-hop and just moving your body and learning to feel good in it. She'd been doing it for 2 years. She was paid almost nothing, enough to cover the room rental and a little extra, and she did it because she needed to. She had mentioned the class to Serena several times but never invited her to watch on a Saturday in mid-November. She did. You don't have to come, she said. In the way people say that when they very much want you to come. I want to come. Serena said. The community center was a utilitarian space, fluorescent lit, with a hardwood floor that had been refinished several times and a mirrored wall with a practice bar. The room smelled like sneakers and the wood polish they used on the floor. It was nothing like the studios Serena had been in for work events and charity benefits. She sat in the corner on a folding chair and watched Maya teach. And this was when she understood something she'd been orbiting around for. Weeks, because Maya teaching was different. From Maya dancing. Different from Maya working a room, different from Maya telling stories in a diner at 2 in the morning. This was Maya completely in her element, so fully herself that it was almost like watching someone become transparent. She was patient in a way that surprised Serena, who associated patience with effort. Maya's patience was not effortful. It was native to her, at least here, at least with these kids. She corrected without criticizing. She demonstrated with her whole body, not just showing the steps, but showing the feeling behind them, so the kids could understand what they were reaching for. She laughed with them, not at them. When a girl in the second row, maybe 10 years old, kept stumbling on the same transition and started to get frustrated, Maya stopped the whole class, went to her specifically, and worked the movement down into something so simple and manageable that the girl got it and her face changed completely from frustration to this blazing pride. And Maya saw that change and mirrored it. And the two of them did the move together 3 more times. Grinning Serena on her folding chair in the corner felt something press against the inside of her chest after the class. When the kids had gone and they were alone in the room, Maya began collecting her things and Serena walked to the center of the floor and stood in the empty space. "You're extraordinary," Serena said. She didn't qualify it. She just said it. Maya looked up from her bag. "At teaching," Serena said, "with those kids, I've watched a lot of people lead rooms and I've never seen anyone make people feel the way you just made that class feel." Maya was quiet for a moment. "That's what I want to do," she said. "Every day. Not just Saturday mornings, I know." Maya looked at her. "You're going to help me, aren't you?" It wasn't a question. It was something she had figured out, was putting into words for the first time. "If you'll let me," Serena said. "I'm not a charity project." "No, you're an investment." Serena said it with the absolute seriousness of someone who had evaluated thousands of them. "The best kind." Maya looked at her for a long moment. Then she walked across the empty dance floor that good, worn, refinished floor and stopped in front of Serena. Closer than she usually stood. "Why?" she said softly. "Because you're going to change a lot of lives," Serena said. "And also because," she stopped. "Because," Maya said even more softly. Serena looked at her. This woman who had, over the course of 2 months, quietly taken apart every single careful wall she had constructed and replaced them with windows. This woman whose laugh changed the temperature of rooms, whose hands were strong from years of real work, who told the truth without cruelty and received it without fragility, who looked at her like she was a person. "Because I love you," Serena said, simply, quietly, without a plan for what came next. The silence stretched between them. Full and warm. Then Maya reached up and put her hand against Serena's jaw, and Serena's eyes closed without her deciding to close them, and Maya kissed her gently, fully, with the same quality of presence she brought to everything, the quality of being completely, utterly there. It lasted a long time. When it ended, they stood with their foreheads together, both of them breathing a little unevenly. In the middle of the empty studio, with the afternoon light coming through the high windows and landing on the old good floor. "I love you too," Maya said. "In case that wasn't obvious." "It was obvious," Serena said. "Was it?" "You seemed uncertain." "I was never uncertain about you. I was uncertain about myself." Maya pulled back enough to look at her. "And now?" Serena thought about the folding chair in the corner and the girl's blazing pride, and the weight she had not known she was carrying until Maya had, gradually and without announcement, taken it away. "Certain," she said. It was a Tuesday in December when the first complication arrived. Serena was in a board meeting, the kind that lasted 3 hours and covered 17 items on the agenda and had the specific energy of people performing productivity rather than achieving it. She was managing it as she always managed it, with precision and patience and a complete absence of anything that could be called fun. At item 11, the conversation turned to the South Side development. A board member named Richard, silver-haired, 64 years old, deeply traditional, a man who had been on this board since before Serena had taken the company over and who had, in those years, made his opinion of her age and gender and methods known in 100 small ways without ever being directly impolite. Richard mentioned that he had heard the CEO had been visiting the entertainment district property. Frequently. Several times, he said, with the careful neutrality of someone who was not being careful or neutral. Personally. I conduct personal site visits on major acquisitions, Serena said. This isn't new. Of course, Richard said. I was simply noting. The property includes a rather, he paused, colorful establishment on the corner unit. I hope the personal visits haven't been another pause, longer, heavy, complicated by any personal connections. The room was quiet. Serena looked at Richard. Her face was completely still. She'd been trained by years of exactly this kind of thing. To keep her face completely still. The corner unit, she said, is managed professionally, has 18 months on its lease, and will be handled in accordance with our standard redevelopment protocol. My site visits have been professional in nature. A pause. Is there a specific concern about the acquisition you'd like to raise, Richard? One that relates to the business case? He leaned back. Not at all. Good, then shall we move to item 12? They moved to item 12. After the meeting in her office, Serena stood at her window for a long time. The city below moved through its midwinter patterns. She was not angry exactly. She was something colder than anger. A kind of crystalline clarity, she picked up her phone and called Maya. I need to tell you something, she said. She told her about the meeting. All of it, including the specific language Richard had used and what it implied. She did not soften it. Maya was quiet for a moment when she finished. How do you feel? Maya asked. Angry, Serena said. And also she stopped. Scared? Concerned, Serena said. About you. About what this could mean for you. What it could mean for me personally, or what it could mean for my lease. Both. A pause. And for you? Your position? I've handled worse. That's not what I asked. Serena sat down in her chair and looked at her desk, the neat surface. The organized life, the architecture of control she had spent years building. I don't care what Richard thinks, she said. I don't care what any of them think. I care that you are, she paused. That this is, she paused again. Real, Maya said softly. Yes, I care that it's real, and I don't want the real thing to get. She couldn't find the word. It won't, Maya said. With a certainty that was not naive, was not denial. Was just steady. Serena, I have spent my entire adult life being looked at in ways that are reductive and small. I know how to stand in that and not let it touch what actually matters. And what actually matters, a brief pause, is us. Serena closed her eyes. Okay, she said. Okay, Maya said. Jess found out the usual way. She walked in on them. It was a Thursday evening, just before Maya's first set, and Serena had stopped by the club, something she did occasionally now, casually. In the way of someone who had stopped pretending, there was a professional reason, and they were in the small hallway outside the dressing room. And they were kissing, quietly and unhurriedly. Serena's back against the wall and Maya's hands on her arms. And Jess came around the corner and stopped so fast she nearly fell over. The three of them stood in the hallway. Serena stepped back and smoothed her turtleneck. Maya turned around with the expression of someone who was not going to apologize for anything. Jess looked from one to the other. Then she said, I knew it. I have known it since September, and I want both of you to know that being right feels very good. Maya started laughing. I'm genuinely thrilled for you both, Jess continued, pointing at them. And also, Maya, you owe me $20 because I said before Christmas. It is before Christmas, Maya pointed out. Barely. Jess beamed at Serena. Hi, I'm Jess. I've heard a lot about you. She has, Maya confirmed. Good things, Jess said. Serena, who had been prepared for a dozen different reactions and had not been prepared for this one, found herself smiling. I've heard about you too, she said to Jess. The hairspray. Jess pointed at Maya. You told her about the hairspray. That was it was not private. You used half the bottle. Serena stood in the hallway and listened to these two women argue cheerfully about a bottle of hairspray, and felt in the warm noise of it something that it took her a moment to identify. She felt included. It happened in January. Business column in a regional magazine, not a major publication, but one that covered the Chicago development world and was read by exactly the people Serena's board consisted of. Ran a brief item. It was 2 paragraphs. It mentioned Serena's South Side development. It mentioned that she had been seen frequently at a nightclub in the acquisition zone. It mentioned, without naming Maya, that she appeared to have formed a personal connection with one of the establishment's performers. The tone was not hostile exactly. It was the kind of tone that weaponizes neutrality. Serena read it at 6:30 in the morning at her kitchen island, standing up. Still in her workout clothes, then she put her phone face down on the counter and stood very still for a long moment. She thought about Dana's note in the top drawer of her office desk. I hope it loves you back. She thought about Richard's careful neutrality in the board. Meeting Dot, she thought about all the ways she had spent her life being very, very careful. And the thing she had learned from all that carefulness, which was that carefulness did not protect you. It just limited what you allowed yourself to have. She picked up her phone. She called not Maya but her communications director, a sharp woman named B. And they had a 30-minute conversation about the article. Then she called Maya. I've seen it, Maya said. Before Serena could speak, I'm sorry. Why are you apologizing? Because it's affecting you. It mentions me without naming me in 2 sentences in a trade column, Maya said. I've handled significantly more than that. A pause. Are you okay? This was Maya. This was who Maya was. The first question was always about Serena. Serena stopped. I've been managing optics my whole life, and I know this is manageable. But I want to be clear about something. Okay, I'm not going to manage this by being less visible about us. I'm not going to. She stopped, found the word minimize you. Not for a trade column or a board member or anyone. A pause. Serena, Maya said, I mean it. I know you mean it. Maya's voice was very quiet. I know you do. And I love you for it. But I need you to also be smart. You have a company. Thousands of employees. I don't want to be the reason that gets complicated. It won't be complicated. You don't know that. I know that I'm not going to be the person who hides something real because other people are small about it. Serena said this with a specific quiet certainty she usually reserved for very important decisions. That's not negotiable. Another pause longer. I am so in love with you, Maya said. The sentence went through Serena like light through water. I know, she said. Same. There was a second gala in February. This one was different. It was an industry event. The kind that Serena absolutely had to attend. The kind where every major developer and investor in the city would be in the same room. The kind where her choices would be watched and commented on. And cataloged. She asked Maya to come with her. She asked her simply. Over the phone, the way she had been slowly learning to do simple things, directly, without hedging, without building elaborate structures of justification around the ask. The Meridian Foundation dinner, she said. February 14th. I'd like you to come with me. The briefest pause. Then Valentine's Day? I didn't plan the calendar. She could hear Maya smiling. I don't have anything to wear to that kind of thing, Maya said. I will buy my own dress. Maya, I will buy my own dress. Serena, I'm not going to let you. It's not charity, I know it's not charity. It's love. But I'm still buying my own dress. Serena paused. You're very stubborn. Thank you. It wasn't a compliment. It was a little bit of a compliment. Maya bought her own dress. It was emerald green. Simple, elegant, fitted. She wore her hair down and natural, the way she wore it at home, the way Serena loved it. She wore small gold earrings and flat shoes, because she said life was too short for heels you couldn't walk in. She met Serena in the lobby of the Hotel and Serena, who was wearing black as always, who had attended hundreds of these events and walked into each one with the same controlled efficiency. Serena saw Maya walk across that lobby and stopped breathing for a moment. Hi, Maya said. Hi. Serena managed. Maya looked at her expression and smiled, delighted. You look like you've just seen a natural wonder. I have, Serena said. They walked in together. There were looks. Of course there were looks. Some curious, some cool, some warm, some the specific kind that Serena had learned to simply not see over the years. But there were also people who came to say hello, who she introduced Maya to with the ease of someone who had made a decision and made it fully. and the warmth Maya brought to every one of those introductions natural, unperformed. Genuinely interested in the people she was meeting did something Serena had not expected. It disarmed people. By the end of the evening, Maya had had a 20-minute conversation with the chair of the Housing Foundation about community dance programs and urban development, and had suggested 3 specific connections the foundation hadn't considered. And the chair had given Maya her card and asked to follow up. In the car home, Serena looked at Maya in the seat beside her, lit by the passing streetlights, still bright with the energy of a long evening. "You were remarkable tonight," Serena said. "I was just talking to people. That is remarkability. Most people in that room talk at people. You talk to them." Maya turned to look at her. "You do too. When you stop performing the CEO, is it that obvious?" "To me, yes." Maya took her hand in the dark of the back seat. "You're a very different person in private. Better or worse?" "Infinitely better. Also, the CEO is impressive. But the real one is," Maya paused, searching. "What?" "She's mine," Maya said simply. Serena turned her hand over and held Maya's back. Outside the windows, the city moved past, glittering. "She is," Serena said. In March, Serena did something she had been thinking about since November. She asked Gloria, her property manager, to pull the details on a specific space. A ground floor unit 2 blocks from Maya's apartment building. Formerly a dance supply store, had been vacant for 8 months. Good bones, good natural light from the east-facing windows. A floor that with work could be restored to a proper studio surface. The right square footage for 4 practice rooms, a small waiting area, an office. She didn't tell Maya. She spent 3 weeks thinking about it, working through the figures, consulting with her team. Then one Sunday morning she spread the building plans on her dining table and called Maya and said, "Can you come over? There's something I want to show you." Maya came. She stood at the dining table and looked at the plans. She looked at the photographs of the space. She looked at the budgets Serena had prepared, startup costs, first-year operating projections. A realistic model for sustainable revenue from classes and private instruction. She was very quiet for a long time. "You've been working on this for weeks," she said. 3 weeks. "Approximately. Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I wanted to be sure it was real before I showed it to you. I didn't want to show you something half-formed." Maya looked at the plans. At the east-facing windows marked in the elevation drawing. At the room Serena had labeled, in her careful architect's handwriting, "Community Youth Program Space." "Serena," she said, "I know it's a lot. And I know you said you weren't a charity case, and you're not. This is a business arrangement. I've structured it as an investment, Serena. And you would have full control of all artistic and operational decisions. I have no interest in Serena." Maya turned to look at her. Her eyes were bright. "Stop explaining. Sorry." Maya looked at her for a moment that lasted 100 years. "Is it real?" she asked. "It's as real as you want it to be." Maya put her hand on the table. "Over the plans, over the drawing of the building, over the space marked for the community program. I want it to be real," she said. "Then it is." Maya walked around the table and put her arms around Serena and held on tight, her face against Serena's neck, and Serena stood very still for just a second, the way she always did in the first moment of being held. That old reflex of not knowing what to do with being received, and then she held back, fully, completely, with everything she had. "Thank you," Maya said into her shoulder. "You would have gotten there yourself," Serena said. "I just made it faster." "I know," Maya said. "But thank you anyway." The lease ran out in April. Velvet closed on a Friday night. Big Dave had known it was coming for a year and had spent that year making plans. He was opening a smaller venue across town, taking most of his staff with him, starting fresh in a different space. He was pragmatic about it in the way of someone who had seen many things change in the city and knew that change was the only constant. Still, the last night was the last night. Serena came. She sat at the bar where she had always sat, and she drank her red wine, and she watched the room that had been, in its way, the beginning of everything. She thought about October and a woman on a stage and a look that lasted 3 seconds and changed the direction of her life. She thought about cold walks and diners at 2 in the morning and phone calls at 5. M in a folding chair in a dance studio, and Emerald. Green in a hotel lobby. Maya's last set was last. She came out in black. Simple, classic, the way she had looked on the second visit. And she danced to a song that Serena recognized, one of the songs from Maya's personal playlist. The one she played when she was cooking in her kitchen on Sunday mornings. Something slow and aching and full of feeling, she danced for the room. She danced for Big Dave and Jess and all the staff and the regulars who had come for the last night. And she danced for one long passage in the middle of the set. Directly for Serena, Serena did not look away when the set ended and the room erupted, and Big Dave said some things from the DJ booth that made everyone cry a little. Maya came down from the stage and walked directly to the bar, and Serena stood up, and Maya walked into her, and they stood there, together in the middle of the closing noise of the room. Serena's arms around Maya's shoulders and Maya's face against Serena's neck. And the world went on around them. "You okay?" Serena said. "Yes," Maya said. "Because what comes next is real." The studio opened on the first Saturday of June. It was called Raise. Dance. Maya had chosen the name without drama or deliberation. It was her name and her studio, and that was enough. The space was everything the plans had promised. 4 rooms, the east-facing windows filling the main studio with morning light. The floors restored to warm blonde wood. The walls painted the color Maya had been sketching in her notebook for 2 years, a specific deep terracotta that turned gold in the afternoon light. The community room had mismatched chairs and bright murals that 3 local teenagers had painted over 2 weekends, and which were, everyone agreed, extraordinary. The opening was not a grand affair. There was no press release, no ribbon cutting, no catered event. There were Maya's family, her mother, who was recovered and sharp-eyed and who had cried when she saw the space, and Jess, who had brought champagne and flowers. There were the kids from the community center, 12 of them who were the first students, and whose parents had driven them across the city on a Saturday morning, and who ran their hands along the studio walls and looked at the mirrors impressed, their feet against the good wood floors. And there was Serena. In the back of the main studio, standing against the wall, Maya saw her there when she was in the middle of explaining the schedule to a group of parents, and their eyes met across the room. And Maya gave her a look that Serena had learned to read over 8 months of watching this woman's face, the look that said you and us and thank you all at once. Serena gave back the look that said always, later, when everyone had gone and they were alone in the studio. In the early evening, with the summer light coming gold through the east windows and lying in long warm rectangles across the blonde floor, Maya danced. Not for an audience, not for a set, just for herself in her own space, to music that she chose. Her feet bare on the floor she had dreamed of, in the building that existed because she had worked for it and believed in it, and at a certain point, let someone who loved her help. Serena sat cross-legged on the floor and watched. She thought about October. She thought about control and distance and carefully made beds and looking at a lake from behind glass. She thought about Dana's note and the ways she'd protected herself, and the things that protection had cost her. She thought about this, a woman moving through light, completely free, completely herself. She thought about how the best buildings were the ones that made room for life. That's what she had always believed. Not the most impressive buildings, not the most expensive. The ones where something real could happen. Maya stopped in the center of the room, a little breathless, hair loose, feet bare on her floor. She looked at Serena. "What are you thinking?" She said. Serena thought about it honestly. "I'm thinking," she said, "that this is the best thing I've ever built." Maya tilted her head. "You gave me the space." "I built it." "We built it," Serena said. Maya walked across the floor and sat down beside her, close, their shoulders touching, looking at the room together. The light moved across the walls. Outside, the city made its noise. Inside was warm and quiet and full of everything that was going to happen here in the years ahead. "We built it," Maya agreed. They sat together in the good quiet of it. Serena took Maya's hand and held it, and Maya leaned her head against Serena's shoulder, and they stayed like that for a long time. In the last light of the day, in the room they had made. It was a Saturday morning in June. 1 year after the opening of Race Dance. Serena woke at 5, as she always did. She lay for a moment in the large bed that no longer looked like no one had ever slept in it. It had the lived-in rumple of a bed where 2 people slept. One of them a restless sideways sleeper who regularly stole most of the duvet, and she listened to Maya's breathing in the space. Beside her. Maya had moved in January. It had not been dramatic. It had been gradual, the way real things happen more nights at Serena's. A drawer, then two, then a wardrobe rail. Then Biscuit the cat arriving in a carrier and investigating every inch of the apartment with the thoroughness of a building inspector. The plants had come in stages, filling up the windowsills. Hanging from hooks that Serena had put in the ceilings herself, actually enjoyed putting in herself. Because there was something about the small, useful work of it that satisfied some old architectural hunger. The apartment was different now. Not less ordered, but differently ordered. Warmer. There were things on the kitchen counter that were Maya's. There were shoes at the door. There was a collection of dance theory books on the shelf beside Serena's architecture volumes. There was Biscuit asleep on the armchair that Serena had bought specifically for Biscuit to sleep on. Because she had decided, sometime around February, that she had strong opinions about where the cat slept, and those opinions were pro-armchair. She was not sure when. She had become a person who had strong opinions about cat furniture. She was not unhappy about it. She got up quietly and went to the kitchen and made coffee, black for herself, the spiced tea she kept for Maya, and she stood at the windows in the early morning light and looked at the lake. The lake was gold this morning. Summer gold, bright and clean. The city to the south was waking up slowly. She thought about the first time she had stood here and felt that unnamed thing. That distance. That glass. It was not there now. At 7:30, she heard Maya in the bedroom. The specific series of sounds that meant waking up a long stretch that made the bed frame creak. The rustling of the duvet being pulled back. Bare feet on the floor. Maya appeared in the kitchen doorway with her hair enormous and her eyes mostly closed, wearing one of Serena's shirts, which came to mid-thigh on her. Coffee, she said. Tea, Serena said. Handing her the mug. Maya took it with both hands and looked at her over the rim the way she had done in the diner at 2 in the morning. The first time, and it was exactly the same. Time had not worn it down. If anything, it was better, because now there was no uncertainty in it. Now it was just them. Just this. You've been up for 2 hours, Maya said. Hour and a half. Working? No. Serena looked at the lake. Just standing here. Maya came to stand beside her, their arms touching, looking out at the gold water. What were you thinking about? Maya asked. You, mostly. Serena glanced at her. The studio. The lake. How this is, she paused. How this is what. Serena was quiet for a moment. She was still not naturally good at this, at putting the felt things into words. She was getting better. Maya was patient with the process. How this is what I didn't know to want, she said finally. Not the specifics. Just, she gestured, slightly helplessly, at the apartment, the lake. Maya in her shirt with her tea and her enormous morning hair. This, something that's actually mine. Maya looked at her for a long, soft moment. Then she leaned up and kissed her on the cheek, warm and unhurried. The way you kiss someone you know well and love continuously and plan on knowing for a long time. It's ours, she said. Ours, Serena agreed. Below them, the city was fully awake now. A Saturday in June, warm, the lake brilliant and open under a clean blue sky. Somewhere south of the loop, in a building with east-facing windows and terracotta walls and a floor that was very good to dance on. 12 children would arrive in a few hours to move their bodies and learn to feel good in them. At the door of that studio, there would be a small gold plaque that said, Reese Dance a Space for Everybody, and below that, in smaller letters, the dedication that Maya had chosen, for everyone who needed a room of their own to find out what they were. Serena had read those words on the day the plaque went up and had not said anything. She had simply taken Maya's hand and held it. She thought about rooms, about spaces, about what it meant to build something that made room for life. She had spent her career believing she understood that. And then a woman on a stage had looked at her from 3 seconds across a room and shown her that she had, in the most important way, not understood it at all. Not until now. Not until this. They finished their coffee and tea at the windows. The lake was very bright. The city was very alive. And Serena Vos, who had spent most of her life looking at the world from behind glass, stood in her own sunlit apartment with the woman she loved. and felt for the first time in as long as she could remember, maybe for the first time ever fully. Completely, unreservedly on the right side of it.